As the world watches tensions between Russia, Ukraine and the West escalate, Vladimir Putin has been making calculated moves, sending a clear message. He is ready to negotiate, but only on his terms. Vladimir Putin has strategically positioned himself as both a negotiator and an enforcer, signaling that Russia is open to discussions, but only if the terms favor Moscow. His latest public statements and Kremlin insiders reveal three fundamental demands. 1. No Western troops in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has made it clear he wants security guarantees from the West, including the deployment of NATO or EU forces to safeguard Ukraine. Some European countries have even expressed willingness to send troops. However, Putin has drawn a red line. Moscow's position is firm. Any foreign military presence in Ukraine would be seen as a direct threat. According to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, NATO expansion and the potential absorption of Ukraine into the alliance pose an existential risk to Russia's sovereignty. Putin has been clear, any foreign troop deployment, whether under NATO or EU flags, is unacceptable. Russia has repeatedly warned that such moves would escalate the conflict rather than resolve it. While Donald Trump has claimed that Putin is okay with European troops in Ukraine, the Kremlin quickly dismissed these claims, reinforcing its stance against foreign military intervention. 2. No concessions to Europe. For decades, Europe has played a key role in balancing relations between the US and Russia. But in Putin's eyes, European leaders have lost their influence. His recent comments suggest that he believes Europe has been reduced to mere bystanders, acting at the behest of Washington. Putin has openly dismissed European security concerns, arguing that Western leaders have historically made demands of their allies, but are now struggling to manage internal divisions. Russia's response: a complete disregard for European demands. This dismissal of European involvement is strategic. With Trump questioning NATO's role and certain European nations expressing doubts about unconditional support for Ukraine, Putin sees an opportunity to drive a wedge between Western allies. A fractured NATO means a weaker opposition, and that plays directly into Moscow's hands. One of Putin's longest-standing demands is the rollback of NATO's presence in Eastern Europe. From the very beginning of the Ukraine war, Moscow has insisted that NATO's expansion eastward is unacceptable. This remains a non-negotiable point in Russia's list of conditions for peace. During recent negotiations, Russian officials reiterated that NATO's presence near its borders threatens Russia's national security. Moscow demands that NATO withdraw its forces from Eastern Europe, particularly from countries that joined the alliance after the collapse of the Soviet Union. For Putin, NATO's presence in the region is not just a military issue, it is a symbol of Western dominance that Russia refuses to accept. The demand for NATO's withdrawal is a key part of Putin's broader strategy to isolate Ukraine and keep it firmly outside the Western sphere of influence. If the West concedes on this point, it would mark a significant shift in global power dynamics. While Europe remains entangled in political uncertainty, Putin is eyeing direct negotiations with the United States. Unlike Trump, who has expressed a desire for a swift resolution, Putin is in no hurry. He is playing the long game, using strategic patience to push for terms that favor Moscow. According to Putin, rebuilding trust with the United States is a prerequisite for any real negotiations. During discussions in Riyadh, Moscow and Washington agreed to approach the issue, but no substantive agreements were reached. For Putin, this is an opportunity to engage in negotiations from a position of strength. With Russia controlling approximately 20% of Ukrainian territory, any future peace deal will likely cement Moscow's influence in the region for years to come. Putin's strategy is clear: keep Ukraine isolated by blocking NATO involvement. Force Europe out of negotiations to prevent it from acting as an intermediary. Negotiate directly with the United States to ensure a deal that prioritizes Russia's interests. The implications of these demands are massive. If the West concedes to Russia's conditions, Ukraine's future as an independent Western-aligned state could be jeopardized. NATO's influence in Eastern Europe would be weakened, and Moscow's grip over former Soviet territories would tighten. Meanwhile, global allies are watching closely. China, India, and other major players are evaluating how the West responds to Putin's demands. The outcome of these negotiations will not just shape the future of Ukraine, but could redefine global power structures for years to come. Vladimir Putin is not just asking for a peace deal, he is demanding a realignment of global power. By setting strict conditions, he is challenging the West to either accept a new world order or prepare for prolonged confrontation. The stakes are high. If the United States and Europe fail to present a unified front, Moscow could emerge stronger, setting a precedent for future geopolitical conflicts. On the other hand, if the West refuses to concede, the war in Ukraine could continue indefinitely with devastating consequences for millions. The world is at a crossroads. Will the West stand firm, or will Putin get what he wants? Only time will tell. This story is evolving fast, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What do you think? Should the West make concessions to Russia to end the war? Or should NATO take a harder stance to push back against Putin's demands? Join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth coverage of global politics. Stay informed, stay engaged.